Hi guys, welcome to Extra Talk. We have a bunch of stuff to discuss. First of all, Sahbi, welcome. Puppy welcome. River, first time, welcome.
Hello, very happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. So first of all, let's start with the nice things. We have to apologize to you, and also on behalf of Ajax, because you were one of the first followers of our channel, and we thought all this time until a few months ago that you were a guy.
Oh God! Oh no!
We didn't know until a few months ago that you were actually a woman. So
well, I mean, I don't what do you call it? I don't promote that on my account. You know that I'm female, so it's fair enough. But I would have thought, like after the spaces and things that we had the conversations and things, that you'd pick that up. But
we thought you were very young.
Yeah, exactly. I'll come back to you in a bit, River.
Okay.
Just some channel announcements. Guys, we already published also that you have a chance to win an Ajax shirt. All you have to do is subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and give us your prediction of Ajax PSV next week.
Okay.
And if you're correct, you might have a chance to win the jersey. And we will, if there are more people, of course, having the same results, then we will make a draw. And it will happen in our first live stream, which is coming soon. So let's see what will happen. That's one. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
would never like to bet against Ajax, but maybe we might have to for that game.
No. Always be hopeful. Always be hopeful. All right.
You might not win the shirt, but be hopeful. Yeah.
All right, guys. We asked a lot of people actually if they had questions for us. There's so much things happening with Ajax on the pitch, but also off the pitch. So there were a bunch of questions coming in on YouTube and also on Twitter. We selected a few. I don't know if we can go all through them within the amount of time that we have, but let's see how far we can get. But it's very interesting to say the least. So we actually made the category, there is a question. We will start with the coaching in general, like Schreuder, etc. Then we'll move a little bit into the players. And if there is time, we will talk a little bit more about maybe other stuff, surrounding Ajax. So let's see how far we can get. Before we jump into the questions, one thing, River, first time being on the channel, how did you become an Ajax fan?
Well, it's very interesting you asked that because I started watching Ajax in maybe around 2015, and I don't know what channel it was or how I managed to watch it, obviously, but I think it was it was in the eredivisie. It wasn't even Champions League or anything, or even a European competition. So it just sort of popped up, and I started watching, and it was a very rampant win. I think it was a 4-0 win. And I sort of fell in love from there because I just loved watching, the style of play and everything. And I love the passion of the fans. And I was in the Johan Cruyff Arena. So, I saw the fans jumping. And I sort of fell in love from there. And I just kept sort of following. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm pretty much a fan now because I wasn't just following the club anymore. I was, rooting for Ajax to win. So, I sort of became a fan like that. Just it sort of grew on me,
Yeah. Do you remember that game? Which game it was? The first one you watched?
I can't remember it. Honestly, it was so long ago.
That's
7
fine.
years ago. But it was a rampant win. That's all I remember. I remember the emotion more than the actual game, which is, I think more important here.
I remember also you sent us a DM not so long ago. I think it was this year even. Correct me if I'm wrong. You visited the stadium, right? You did a tour, right?
Yeah. I was in Amsterdam for a football competition with the club that I play for, and we had a bit of spare time, like in between, in the tournament. And I suggested to my friends, like, we have to go and see. This will be the highlight of the trip, I promise. So we all dropped everything and just went, and we managed to catch the very last tour of the day. Which was amazing. But I had such a fun time. It was an amazing experience, to experience like the Johan Cruyff Arena. And I just thought, like, how amazing would this be, like, when it's completely full of fans and things. I have to come back for a game, I thought,
Yeah, you should.
Definitely.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's jump into the questions. The first question, guys. All right, it's about coaching. Let me go with Sahbi. Sahbi is like, you can see it on his face. He wants to start talking. Um, listen, the first question we got in, right? I'm gonna go with Cisco from Twitter. He had actually a few questions, but the first question that we'll pull from this one is, what should Schreuder do different to get us back on track? Sahbi.
Do I have an hour?
We have an hour, but not only for this question.
For myself. No, I mean, it's an excellent question, and it's very obvious. A lot of things needs to change for Schreuder to implement. We can talk about how to pressure as a team. It's like islands within the first 11. When we pressure, we don't pressure as a team. We saw something like that against Liverpool in the first half. That went quite well, but eventually it all fell apart. And yeah, that's definitely a focus. The same applies for how to come out of pressure during a build-up. I would always, I mean, if I'm not pro Blind at this moment, so I would always use a midfielder to involve himself in the build-up, and that's something that I clearly miss. Everybody is relying on Blind, and it's so obvious right now that it's not becoming an advantage; it's becoming a problem. And yeah, one of the last things that he definitely needs to focus is the transition part. We saw that in every game, also against the smaller teams. The spaces between the lines are so huge, so big. Schreuder needs to make sure that the spaces are getting tight. The same applies for defenders. If a defender follows an attacker because he wants to go deep, the attacker into the pitch, there is no defender who's tightening the back line. So there's a huge gap at the back, and that's something which is normal to know as a defender. And I can't believe Schreuder hasn't implemented or hasn't like made it some sort of a thing at the back. And that's why I really miss a type as Bogarde within the coaching staff, because he clearly explained that during the Champions League night against Liverpool. The whole defense lacks leadership, and you need somebody who can lead the defense, and that's something that I don't see at the moment.
Okay, so according to you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying it's tactics. Tactics has to be addressed, and second of all, there has to be more leadership defensively. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and of course there is the so-called problem that certain players are still playing, but that's something that's already familiar. I mean, I'm not, as I said, currently I'm not pro Blind, but he keeps playing. Tadic keeps playing, even though he may start at a certain point, but he never gets substituted, and so on and so on and so on. So it's also the player tactics.
Yeah, River, do you want to react to that first question? Do you have anything to add, maybe to react?
I mean, I was going to say, like, he's completely spot on with the fact that, you can see it on the pitch. It's very disjointed. Nobody really it's not, they're not connected. They're not playing as a team, But I think that's also like a mentality thing, because everyone just like one thing happens, a transition happens, maybe like a counterattack, and you can see like on the pitch, everyone's panicking a little bit. And that comes also back to your point about that there being lack of leadership in the back line, because it's true. You need someone to tell everybody to calm down and, to take control of things. And then that's currently not happening. So 100% agree with that. And I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but the fact that Blind and Tadic, they always just manage to, no matter what the game they play, no matter how bad or good or whatever, they'll always find a way to be in the starting 11 for the next match, which is also a problem. I don't think anybody should have a divine right to their starting place, and that's one of the issues as well.
Yeah, no, clear. Papimento, anything? Same, right? For you?
No, I mean, it's also about him. First of all, let's start with his interviews, okay? Because I don't want to hear when we get battered that we played a good game. That's the first thing that has to go with Schreuder, because I cannot hear that anymore, Con, to be honest. It just pisses me off more, okay? And then second, he has to make the hard decisions. He's not making them, okay? We bought Bergwijn for the left wing, and Tadic is also a left winger. and still he's trying to create positions for players off position, and they're not playing at their best on those positions. So start making your choices. Start maybe putting Luca as the backup for Broby. Put Kudus on 10. Let Conceição play from the right wing for once. You know, those are just simple decisions. And you see it's not working, it's not clicking, but he's not changing anything about it. And that's the lack of leadership comes from the coach first. Okay? And then you see it on the pitch. But you cannot expect the players. Oh, yeah, go.
No, sorry, I was going to say, I also understand like his thoughts of, you know, I want a certain team to play, as in I want a certain 11 players to be the starting 11. I can understand that for the sake of consistency. But there's consistency, and then there's a like a stubbornness, basically. I mean, Eric had it too. Eric Ten Hag, he had it as well. But I think Schreuder has it even worse because things are going wrong. You know, at least Eric had, you know, the guts to bench someone when they weren't having a good game, or, you know, he would take them off. But I think with Schreuder, it's very different because even though he's stubborn, and I get that you have to be stubborn to sort of put your leadership in a team, but it's not working like that, you know. He's doing the opposite of what he intends, which is a problem.
If the chemistry is not there, you cannot stay stubborn. That's the point, though.
Exactly.
But I think honestly, the problem is even bigger than what we're discussing because, like you said, River, Ten Hag, when we didn't play a good game or we lost, it was already for him, you know, like a lesson that something has to change. You know, he has to look at the next game. What can he change? Not always did he make a change, you know, with a player, but he did change something, or he addressed it. But what we're looking at right now is that, as far as the interviews go, I don't know how it is behind closed scenes, but they seem happy. They seem happy. I mean, surely we will touch upon the Hamstra interview as well, but it looks like the board, the coach, everybody is happy, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, we sold 12 players. Yeah, it's difficult. You know, we have to build a new squad. This is the reality. Napoli, Liverpool are really good teams. They are just too good at the moment. This is what we're getting at right now, time after time after time after time again. I'm starting to believe they really believe that. So there is a discrepancy between the fans, us.
I don't think they do believe that, though. I think no, genuinely. Yeah. I don't think they do believe that. I think they're just saying that to save face. You know, if you pretend that madness is part of the plan, then, you know, it feels like it's part of the plan. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's like that because they have to say that. Of course, they can't say in public that this is not what we intended. It's all gone wrong. You know, they can't be honest like that. So they have to do the opposite, which is, you know, lie to our faces and pretend everything's okay when it's not.
Okay, but wait. One moment, Sahi. Just to go to River. If that was the case, look, somebody can say behind camera, that's what Ten Hag also did, right? Ten Hag was always defending the players in front of the camera. But you saw in the next games that he did make some changes, so you actually knew that he was not happy with what someone did. But now, nothing is changing. Like you said, the same players are playing. There is no change, no matter which game we're playing, no matter the score, no matter how we play.
But that's different. That's different, though, because the board can't decide the players. That's the coach. There's two separate things here, because the board can come out and say everything's going to plan, and the coach can say that, and they mean two different things, you know, because the board are looking at the wider context and the coach is looking at game to game. So obviously when the coach says it, it's a much bigger problem when he doesn't change things than when the board says it, because I mean, they have to look at transfer windows and things like that. They have to sort of look ahead, whereas Schreuder looking game to game, that's the more pressing issue.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting.
No,
Go ahead.
No, I'm just stating that I believe that they're saying this because they want to save their job. They have their clear objectives, like qualify for a knockout stage in the being league champions. Yeah, in Europe. So basically, on paper, they're doing well. So they're trying to mention that in the interviews, but we as fans look at the bigger picture, not only at what happens right now or whether we qualify or not. It's all about what do we see? We don't see any progress in the way we play. We don't see any progress in the way we want to play. There's no identity. There's no philosophy. So we look way at the bigger picture, whilst they mainly look at their objectives. Well, we're doing good. We sold so many players. but still we qualified for Europe, or we're gonna qualify for Europe, and we are still first. But it doesn't mean that we played well. It's just that the other ones are practically shit.
But at the
So-
end of okay, but let me be the devil's advocate. At the end of the season, if we become champions, isn't that the most important thing?
Yeah, of course, it's the most important thing for me. But
that feels
it's not
expected.
the only one. It's not the only thing. I want to see some
Exactly.
progression. I want to see a play that we want to see. I mean, I would rather. I'm not saying I would rather lose, but I would rather fight hard and play the type of play we want to play, and then lose, than instead of playing like this every time and hurting my eyes, and then win in injury time, for example.
Okay, let me go to the second question, because this might take very long if we don't. Let me go with River for this one.
Okay.
It's about also Schreuder. So somebody's asking, so when will it be Schreuder out in your view?
Oh, me, I'm already Schreuder out. I'm clocked off. I really don't. I want him gone.
Okay,
And
it's from
there are
Milo
those-
Craig from Twitter. I have to mention his name, Milo Craig. Thank you for the question. For you, it's already
for the
after
question.
3 months.
Sorry.
After 3 months already, River.
Yeah,
Wow.
already. Because the thing is, right, I am never a manager out. Never. Because they obviously need time to implement their style and things. But for me, the problem with
River,
Schreuder.
12 players. They said it.
Yeah, I know. I understand all of that, right? But the problem with him is, if it was like, with the tactical problems, whatever, my problem with him is his mentality. His, like, he gives up almost before all of these big games, before Napoli, before Liverpool. He was saying, or even after the games, he said, we are not at the standard, we are not at the level required. Well, I look at PSV and the way they played against Arsenal, right? Arsenal are top of the Premier League, or they were before tonight. They are top of the Premier League, right? They are a big Premier League team. PSV, they're this little eredivisie team, if you want. They took on this giant team and beat them. And that's the mentality that we need to have. We need to have we've had this mentality for our entire sort of, we're this little club from Amsterdam, and we kill giants. That's what we do. But he's like done the opposite of that, because it's like he's given up and said, we are this little club, and the reality is we're not good enough. And for me, that's not good enough. You can't have that mentality of going into a game losing.
Yeah, do you see that mentality rubbing off on players as well?
Absolutely. There's so many players that you just see, like, even in games, their heads sort of drop when they concede, or they have a transition that's bad, or they sort of panic. You can see that. You can see it, and especially like in their interviews and things. I think Robbie, he had some things to say, and Timber had some things to say after the Napoli game. And these are young players. These are young, impressionable players, and you can't instill a mentality of being a loser. You have to instill a winning mentality, and he doesn't do that. And that's why I'm Schreuder out. Nothing to do with his tactics or the fact that he lost all these players. It's simply a mentality thing.
Okay. Papimento, your take on this. Schreuder out. What's it for you?
I mean, I told you already, I'm Schreuder out, so I don't think we have to give him that much time anymore. But look, we're still number one in the league, so I think the PSV game will be a decider for many fans, if they're still doubting if he should go out. But also, what I miss with him is he should be protecting our legends, Blind and Tadic. And I swear to God, Juan, I never seen so many comments about those two than the last 3 months. And that means he's not getting the best out of them. And that's basically what a coach has to do. He has to get the best out of your best players, right? And the best thing Blind can do is create a lot of chances, create a lot of pass to assists, the things he does well. You should get him in that position to do well. And he's not doing that, and he's still letting him play. And that's actually, how do you say that? It's actually making the perception of Blind much worse than it should be. So it doesn't matter if you bench him, but keep playing him, and him playing that bad. I don't see that as a
You're
not doing
good
him
for
any
his team.
favors. You're not doing him any favors.
Exactly.
You're actually making
You're
it
not
worse.
protecting your Ajax legends, And the same for Tadic. It doesn't make sense for him to keep playing him on positions that he's not going to do well in. Fans are getting annoyed with that, and he's making a lot of the wrong decisions. But I'm telling you, the PSV game is going to be the most important, because if he loses again against a top team, let's say PSV is a top team for just this instance, but in the eredivisie, that's our competitor, then I think a lot of people are going to be Schreuder out. I'm already there. And let's not forget, we're talking about PSV winning from Arsenal. Arsenal didn't play their best 11, but also Liverpool didn't play their best 11. This was the worst Liverpool I've seen in a while, based on their injuries and stuff and their front line. It wasn't top. And still, we were still able to even score a goal and hurt them really. And look how easy actually they won from us.
Okay, well, that's clear. Yeah, that's clear. So moving on to the last Schreuder question. So we're going to the next one. So let's say if Schreuder gets the sack, right? Sahli, this one is for you. Let me start with you with this one. It's from Cisco again. If Ajax sacks Schreuder, who should replace him? That's also another thing.
Yeah, very good question. Also very difficult to answer. I have two names in my mind. Whether they are available or not, I don't know. But just to start as an interim, I would definitely start with Van Gaal. If he was able to pick up that role as an interim assuming Schreuder would be sacked before the World Cup. After World Cup, Van Gaal might take the job. If not, I would try for Hjulmand from Denmark. Mm-hmm. He's an excellent coach, plays good football, plays 4-3-3 system, recognizable system with clear identity and a good philosophy that looks like the one of Ajax. So that is one of my favorite. And the second one would be Gallardo. And
there was a question about that. We'll touch upon that in a bit as well.
Yeah, and I will come back to that on that why I think he would be a good coach.
Sure. River, how about you? If
I mean, I was going to say the same, Marcelo Gallardo, which is, that was high up on my priority list. But also,
then let me give you the question right away. We can go through this. Is Gallardo a good manager coach for Ajax? From Nuna Valem, Twitter. Thank you for the question. So you can take this one, River. Do you think he's a good coach for Ajax?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say I've seen a lot of River Plate games in the past. I've seen 2 full 90s. But I did like what I saw, and I think he works within the Ajax philosophy. Attacking football, beautiful football. It's good on the eye, and he wins. He's a winner. So I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted Gallardo. But he's not the only name on the list. I also wanted, Bodo Glimt's manager. I cannot pronounce his name. Kjetil Knudsen. I think that's how you say it. But he's also he's a brilliant manager. Bodo Glimt are. They went toe-to-toe with Arsenal. I know they lost that game, but if you actually watch it, he's brilliant. Honestly, the way he sets up his teams, they're brave. It looks like a style that I would associate with Ajax. So that's another reason.
Okay. Pacimento, you?
I'm more old school, Juan. The thing is, I love those names, but I don't hear any of them having any relationship or any history with Ajax to really be excited about those coaches. Gallardo is really good. He got a lot of prizes in Argentina, and they won a lot. And he is a modern coach, young coach, plays in different systems. So I wouldn't mind it, but I would love a coach that knows the club, that has history with us, and that understands what is required also from Ajax standpoint, the way you want to play the possession game.
So are you saying, okay, can I just put something to you? I'm going to disagree, because
sure.
Would you rather take Frank de Boer back or Pep Guardiola?
No, absolutely not.
It feels like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. It feels a bit like, it feels a bit lazy to say you want someone who's associated with Ajax, because anybody can have that connection with a club. It doesn't matter if they're from Amsterdam or they're born and raised in Holland or whatever. It just matters that they love good football. That's what matters, really, and to have that connection with the fans. I mean, recently in Portugal, for example. Sorry to interrupt again, but in Portugal they recently Benfica, their manager. we've seen him in the Eredivisie and things, but they took a punt on someone who had nothing to do with the club, and he's flying. He's not lost a game yet. So, maybe we need to widen our scope of, people. Maybe in the board, it's a bit different, board members who are to do with Ajax and they understand the club and things. That's important. But with coaching and tactics and systems and things, we need to branch out, I think. Well,
What's the name? What's the name, Puppy? What's the name?
No, I mean, look, the two names that stand out for me is Bos and Slot. And I know Bos, not a lot of people are interested by that, but the way we pressed under Bos and what he did in 1 year, getting us to the Europa League final, even though we lost, the quality of that team was not the quality that Ten Hag had. And I think he can really set us up to really get to a level we should be at again. Gallardo, yeah, I mean, I understand the motives for it. I think he's a very good coach, but he doesn't have the Ajax history or the Ajax knowledge to succeed, I think, at Ajax. And I think it's going to be very hard for him.
Yeah, and we don't know. To say one more thing. We underestimate, if we go for Gallardo, the language barrier. We have to be aware of that as well, right?
That's
very important.
That's important.
And just looking at Ajax history, how many foreign coaches did we have?
I always say this.
Hasn't been done much.
No, not much. But I mean,
sorry, no.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Who?
So let's start now. Why not?
You first. Go ahead, Sabi.
No, I mean, Papi, I do agree with you with that.
No, I'm just saying, let's just start now. Why not start now? Maybe it's about time.
I'm sorry, River. What did you say? I didn't catch that.
Sorry, I was just saying, maybe it's time to start. Maybe it's time to start, looking at the wider scope. Maybe we shouldn't just be looking at, the Dutch coaches or the coaches that have something to do with Ajax. Maybe we need to branch out like Benfica have done, and it's pulled off quite nice for them.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
No. I mean, I'm not against what Papi mentioned. I'm just for the Ajax way of playing, and that shouldn't always be an Ajax, a former Ajax player, for example. I mean, you mentioned Slot. Slot doesn't have an history with Ajax, and I do favor his way of play, the way he plays with Feyenoord, especially last season. So I wouldn't be against it, but there aren't any real former Ajax players or players that have or former trainers, coaches that are really linked to Ajax that are available. I mean, I first started with Van Gaal, and I know that won't be something that's feasible. But who would you get with an Ajax background as a coach?
Can I ask something about Slot? Because the real question here is not if he's available or whatever. Would he actually come to Ajax? Would he do that?
Everybody wants to come to Ajax, River. Everybody on a bike.
I don't know if you're aware of this. But Toby Alderweireld once said it in an interview in Dutch, that at the end of the day, everybody can criticize Ajax, and they can always say, even players at different clubs, they can say, no, I would never play at Ajax, this kind of thing. At the end of the day, if Ajax comes knocking, everybody would take their bike and go to Ajax. That's literally what he said. So that's why he made that comment.
Fair enough.
From Feyenoord to Ajax. Yeah, I mean, from Feyenoord to Ajax is always a hot topic, right? You don't do that easily. He even got a lot of backlash going from AZ to Feyenoord, I think. So maybe Bos is the more logical option. But look, if they go for Gallardo, I'm not going to be mad about it. I would actually be happy that they're trying something new, because he is very successful at the moment, and he seems like a very tactical, highly skilled coach that doesn't play one system, loves to press, and really sets up the best way against an opponent. Looks an opponent, and that's how he sets up. So I think he could really take us to the next level. I just don't think it will happen. So that's why I didn't even consider him.
Right.
And the thing that I really love about Gallardo is he gives young talents or players from the youth academy a chance. So he's not a coach of buying, but he also looks at the youth academy, and that's
Well,
something which is clearly linked with the Ajax philosophy.
that's the thing, right? Even the clubs in Argentina and Brazil, they also have that they have to sell their best players, to the bigger
Yeah,
clubs. So they also have every season, basically. Their season is a bit different, but they have to work with new squad every now and then. So he had that experience of how to rebuild again, and that's
exactly.
important. Yeah, that's
Exactly,
true.
and you would buy also a coach that has a South American network that could benefit you a lot, like as an Ajax
Absolutely.
for future
He would be
players.
buddies
So
with Henk Veldmaten. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
exactly. So
Sahdi, let me go with you for the next question. Actually, it's a bunch of questions we put together because we received 2 or 3 of the same. So many questions of those were about maybe looking for youth players right now that might fit into this team. Which players would you play from maybe young Ajax more often in this team? Are there any? Or maybe even younger players like Vos or Misoi?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
your
I mean, to be
are
honest, I
Luca
don't see
and
any.
Conceição considered young Ajax?
They do play young Ajax sometimes,
They
but
do
yeah,
play,
you could
yeah, but
argue.
I don't consider them young Ajax players.
Okay,
I mean, they're just
okay, go
playing.
ahead.
But for me, I don't see any exceptional or special talent at this moment at young Ajax. So no, I wouldn't bring anybody from this year's young Ajax. The under
Not
18,
even
as you
Piri?
mentioned,
Not
with
even
Vos.
Piri, Sabi? Not even Piri?
No, please no. But yeah, I mean, the under 18, they have some great talents. You already mentioned a few, Juan. There are more, and I think next season, young Ajax might have a big chance of performing well that season in Keuken Kampioen division. But this season, young Ajax, I don't see anybody, and for the under 18s, it's too early to bring them
Okay.
on.
Do you know? I
So
think.
related,
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry. Just
quickly. Yeah, go ahead.
just to add to that, the problem isn't about playing the youth. It's like he doesn't even play the younger players who are already part of the starting sort of the starting squad. Because I mean, we have Robbie. I mean, he was quite expensive. We don't really play him as much as we probably should. Conceição, another one. I mean, you mentioned, but we bought these players for a reason, and they just don't get played consistently enough, in my opinion. Like they are young players,
Exactly.
and they need to play, but they're not. So I can't expect him to even care about young Ajax if he's not playing the youth players, if you like, who are already part of the first team setup.
We
Yeah.
even have
And you
we
can
even have the
only
oldest team, the oldest team in the Champions League. Ajax, the oldest
I
team
think
in
the
the Champions League
goalkeeper
last game.
raised the age a little bit there, to be
So
honest.
it's consistently
mean-
negative
Well, yeah,
records with
I mean,
Schreuder.
yes, Sphere did raise it, but even if you take him out, look how many veterans we have for Ajax. For Ajax,
Blind,
Too much.
Klaassen, Tadic.
Too much.
Klaassen. We have Blind. It's a lot.
Oh,
Man. It's
way
not
too
Klaassen,
much.
don't even get me started on Klaassen. I have so much to say about
I
that
think,
guy.
I think you and Papa
And
can
there's
get along
one
with each
related-
other.
Yeah, one related question to this was also whether we should use players from young Ajax, but you made a very good point, actually, River. Let me give you the other question: is should we go in the January window for reinforcements?
I mean, as long as the coach plays him or them or whoever comes in, yes, absolutely. Why not? We should always be looking to improve the squad. We should always be looking to improve certain areas. But unless, like Vindal, we bought him. He doesn't play over Blind. He should. Conceição, again, pure right winger. He doesn't play. We don't really have a right winger. Robbie, pure number 9. We play Kudus as a false 9 sometimes. Do you know what I mean? It's like if we're going to buy players, if we're going to dip in the transfer market, we lost all these players. We bought some new ones, and we don't even play them. So I don't think there's a point of buying if we're not going to play them.
The only thing I will say is this, though. You know that certain players will leave at the end of the season. Like Alvarez, Kudus, I don't think they're going to stay. I mean, they don't feel
Timber.
valued. Kudus doesn't feel so valued, so I think for sure he's gone. I think Alvarez, I mean, we saw the tweet today. He wants to go to a bigger club, more money in his pocket. But so we already know that we're going to lose certain players that are very valuable to us. And we know also that if you bring in a player, it takes a while for them to get adjusted to the Ajax way of play, the Ajax team, etc. So why not go into the transfer market, even though because I don't want the veteran. I want a young player with exceptional talent, Anthony-like talents.
Hold on.
If they need time, bring him in. If there is a gem, of course, bring him in.
Okay, well, okay. If there is a gem and there's a special opportunity, I would say yes. Now, we know from history that Ajax usually in the January window, we don't really make big transfers. That's one. Second of all, do you think the board will allow it after spending 100 million in the summer?
I mean, if the board is looking at the Ajax game, yes.
No, you're right. I don't think they will.
Do you guys think the board will accept Ajax going in January, spending money after spending 100 million in the summer?
You talk about the players who are leaving in the summer. Then they should plan for the summer window, shouldn't they? So these players are leaving. We should plan, okay, well, who can we get to replace them before the actual summer window happens?
Yeah, but River, that's not really how it works with Ajax, right? Ajax doesn't buy in advance. Ajax sells, then buys.
No, I don't mean buy in advance. Just look at who because I think this summer was a bit of a mess in terms of planning, because we didn't plan to lose Anthony. We didn't plan to lose him, especially not that late in the window. So we have to plan for these things to happen, contingencies, backups and things. We got a Campos who was like the last minute deadline day, panic signing. We shouldn't do that. That shouldn't be, we should have a plan. That's what I'm saying. I don't think buying
Campos might be leaving as well, right?
Yeah, he will.
In the trans, and then we still don't have an option on the
I'm just giving an example. I mean, I'm just,
I know what you're saying, but even that you cannot. Even planning ahead, that's difficult, because you cannot say in January, well, let's buy this player because we're pretty sure that this player will leave in the summer. That's very difficult to do.
I don't mean buy them, just have a plan, in case, maybe just in case Alvarez decides to leave in the summer, or we decide to sell it. Yeah, a list at least, because it feels like this summer was so disjointed. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a list. We didn't have players who we'd replace players with. It just felt like a mess to me.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let me move to the next question, right? The next question is from Cisco again, from Twitter. Now we're moving a little bit more to the players. Let me ask Complimento this one. Should Blind be replaced by Wijndal?
Depends. Very hard question. I mean, look, Blind shouldn't be playing those Champions League matches again. But if we're playing VVV or RKC or any of those games, Blind should be able to play those games. So if you're using him in a rotational play and you really need his build-up play, you can always make a spot for Blind. But it's not, for me with Blind, it's not one-on-one. It's looking at the opponent and setting him up to be the best he can be for us in the team. Okay, he's an Ajax legend. I think he deserves that kind of respect. But you cannot just expect him to be always on the left back, because people also are preparing their team knowing that he's the only build-up guy in the back that can do something with the ball. Because Timber, Bassi, and Wrench on the ball, the creativity is not going to come from there.
Yeah,
that's my point with Blind.
Yeah. What's your take? Wijndal over Blind, or the same as what Complimento said?
No, I completely agree with him. I mean, you're right. He deserves a certain level of respect from us because, he is a club legend, as you say. So, I mean, some games, if he's had a really, really bad game in the last game and we start him the next, it sets a bad precedent, like for the rest of the team. You can be as bad as you want, but you still won't get in this team over certain players, and that's not good. But you're right. We do. It's finding that balance, between respecting him and replacing him, if you like, in the starting 11 when he has a bad game.
Yeah, but
go.
No, but I mean, any player should be rotated in different games. I mean, from that perspective.
Wait. Don't you think, because this is something that is annoying me, basically, I think Schreuder is switching too much.
Yeah, true, but I'm not stating that he needs to change all the time. The question is, should Blind be replaced by Wijndal? In general, I say yes. And I'm not even doubting. I mean, I have the level of respect for Blind. He did great for us. He's a legend, an Ajax player, in heart, in everything. But the level of play of Blind this season has decreased so much as a defender. And we already know that he was not a top defender. So we all had to rely mainly on his build-up. So his great build-up at this moment does not overmatch his lack of his defensive qualities.
Sahbi, I have a question for you, right? It's from AFCZCC from Twitter. So he said, okay, let's say you have Kudus, Taylor, Berghuis, right? For the 8-10 position. So 3 players for those 2 positions. What would be your pick? Who would play on 10? Yeah.
Well, eventually, the players in form should play. And at this moment, it's Berghuis for me on the 8 position. Kudus at a 10 position and with Robbie in front of him. And there can always be a rotation in every game because there are 3 great midfielders for 2 positions. But for me, these are the 2 that will play for me.
Pavimento, for you?
Yeah, I mean, same. I would just let Taylor battle for the 8 position, and I would even consider sometimes Taylor for the 6 position, depending on the game, of course, and what the level of the opponent is. But yeah, I would definitely do that. And for the 10 position, just let Kudus battle it out with Klaassen. Sure, Kudus will win, but let them battle.
It's not much of a battle.
Yeah, how could you call it a battle?
But guys, a question, right? Let me give it to River. Do you think that Taylor is more suitable as a 6 or maybe more as a 10?
That's what I was going to say, because he reads the game so well, and he understands like where he needs to be at what time. But I think in terms of and defensively, he's very solid. So we should probably give him a few games to see how he does, in the 6. But he can play 6 or 8, I think. 10, he doesn't need to play, because we have enough players in that position. But yeah, I think 6 or 8 definitely.
Yeah, I agree with Trevor, definitely.
All right.
And also, I'm not saying every game. I'm just saying in the games that you can, like the lower tier opponents.
Of course.
If you need a little bit more football, we know the back line doesn't have enough creativity. Why not try it?
Yeah. The only problem I have with that, when you play him as a 6, natural instinct, his way of playing, he likes to drive forward. He likes to go to the opponent's yard to make space for others, to give that pass, to make a goal. If you play him as a 6, you take all of that out of him.
It's a mentality thing.
But it's about discipline as well. It's like if you can instill that discipline into him in some of these games. And
I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about whether he could or not play as a 6. I'm saying, like, if he has that natural strength as a player, why would you take that all away?
Why would you limit him?
To play him as a 6.
But you can. Players can take over positions, huh? I mean, that's what I like about the type of Ajax football. If Taylor moves forward, then the number 8 at that moment can always drive a bit back, or a central defender can move up a little bit. I mean, we saw Schreuder at Ajax. He was a right winger. He was a 10, and at the end he became a 6, and he did that excellent.
Yeah,
so
brilliant,
at the end, it's possible as long as you're a baller. And Taylor.
I was going to say, in the Ajax style, sort of, the way we bring up players through the youth system and everything, we teach them this sort of total football. They're good on the ball, they're good at reading situations, they have intelligence, they know where to be at the right time. So if Kenneth Taylor was to go forward with the ball, then another midfielder would drop in, or like you say, a centre back would come up, or whatever, because the team is switched on together. But right now, currently, the problem that we have, the team is not switched on together. They're not connected. So he doesn't have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And for me, the possession game is very important, Juan. So if you look at him, he's 2-footed. If he gets like the intelligence of a Schreuder, if he teaches himself that, and he can really get out of the press with his passing, you have an extra creative player on the midfield that can help out building up, which is one of the biggest problems now at the Ajax team. We're not building up. I'm not seeing the short combinations on the midfield to progress the ball. It's very long ball and kind of, how do you say stroperig in Dutch, in English? I wouldn't even know. Like it's very lethargic in the way we build up. It's so predictable.
It's
basically.
slow. You mean it's like predictable, slow and predictable.
Yeah, absolutely. This one I have to start with something with this one, because it's about your favorite player. Was signing Bergwijn a mistake from Sis on Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, I was never in favor of signing him for such a high fee. I
Okay, but
already
just
mentioned that.
for clarity purposes, you're not against you don't say Bergwijn is not a good player, right? That's not your
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It
As a
was the
starting
price.
point.
It's the price basically that we
It's
paid
the
for.
price in relation to the player, because he was a player that played a handful of games in 2.5 years, and at Tottenham, and such a player should never cost more than 30 million euros. He's not worth that amount. And for me, it was also unclear for which position he was bought. If he was bought as a left winger, what was I thinking in what to do with Tadic? Because he was consistently our best player in the recent years. So it's just difficult. Last season, I was really against it because we had Haller, we had Anthony, we had Tadic. So where would he play? I mean, all those players. We had a leader, a captain. We had Haller, who was bought for tons of money. Anthony, exceptional talent, one of our best forwards. So where would he play? This season, I thought, okay, Anthony would leave. We had Haller who left, so I thought maybe he would be bought for the striker position. But apparently, he wants to play in his favorite position as a left winger. It doesn't add up. So for me, more questions came up instead of answers. At this moment, I'm still saying it's a mistake based on the price, but also the fact that he didn't deliver. At first he did, but we bought him for the Champions League because in the eredivisie we would win either way, etc., etc. That's what fans were telling us the whole season during the transfer window. But he didn't do a lot as well in the Champions League. The team didn't do a lot, but he didn't do much as well. So is it a mistake at this moment? Yeah, it is. But the season's still young. He can still deliver. But I'm afraid we won't see that price. We won't get that profit back from Bergwijn if he continues like this.
Yeah. All right. Let me go to the next question. We have 2 more to go. So this is almost the final one. River, this one is for you. It's a difficult one though. It's from Nico on Twitter. He said, "Are we ever going to sign a new technical director? And do you know any? Do you have any idea?"
Well, I don't know any personally that I can recommend, but Liverpool's ex-technical director, Michael Edwards, that is a long shot. I understand that because Chelsea are sniffing around for him. But that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that would actually work because, he looks for the bargains. He looks for the players who suit the system. He looks for that. And he's very good at selling. So I think he would be good for Ajax in that way. But I can't think of anybody else. I'm sorry. I don't know any other technical directors.
Honestly, it's very difficult even for us to find someone or think about someone who's...
I have one wish.
Go ahead, Sonny. Go ahead. Before Pampimento goes. Go.
Yeah, I have one wish, and I would love to have Maxwell as our technical director. In my view, he's the perfect fit. He has history with Ajax. He still loves the club. He continuously talking about Ajax, about his career there. He works now as an assistant technical director at PSG, so he does have some experience within management. He has a good network, playing with several top clubs. He's a Brazilian, knows some contacts in Brazil as well for the gems, for the big talents that we continuously want to get in. And most likely, players are willing to come to Ajax because of him. He has some stature as a player. So for me, based on all of these elements, he would be a perfect fit for me.
All right, not a bad call, to be honest.
Not a bad call at all. I would sign right now.
And I love him as a player.
Juan, I don't know a TD, but I just wanted to ask this because is Danny Blind actually the TD after the World Cup? Is that certain?
We don't know. No,
Is that
we don't
official?
know.
Yeah.
Rumors.
No.
Just rumors.
Okay, that's only rumors. And I also read an article today that they're saying the pool of technical directors is getting smaller.
Because Feyenoord, PSV, and Ajax are all looking for a technical director. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So shouldn't top clubs, like in a company, usually they would do internships to really give young ex-Ajax or ex-PSV or
Yeah,
ex-Feyenoord.
but that's what Ajax is doing with Huntelaar. And we're
Yeah,
seeing
but no, wait. They're doing that with
That's
Huntelaar, but
different. That's different.
they have Gerry Hamstra as his leader, let's say, and who's training him. But that would be different if it was Overmars training him, right? I mean, Gerry Hamstra is not of that level of Overmars. Let's be honest. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, why aren't they training their own technical team with ex-Ajax players that have the ball knowledge and the charisma to
At this
to
moment,
increase
they
that
don't do
pool?
that. They're just bullying. They're just bullying away all these type of players. It's becoming more of a company instead of a football club, and that's worrying me the most.
Actually, this is a very nice bridge, and this concludes actually our last question, which is a very long one. So bear with me. I'm going to read it. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was really a long one from AFCA NSF. He always actually, I think it's a he, by the way. Let me not make the same mistake. So he or she, thank you for this. Let me read. It's a very large comment, but actually a question to all of you. So what worries me the most are the boardrooms, and this goes especially for the Coronel types filled supervisory board. And Van der Sar being the only executive with high football background, and the decrease of ex-players as youth trainers who have been replaced by nobodies. I feel we're just stone throw away from the situation of the club before the Cruyff revolution. I'd like to know what your views are on this matter, but because I see so many repeating patterns from that nightmare era. So who wants to go first? River, I don't know if you know about that era because you said you watched Ajax from 2015. Lucky you haven't seen the worst parts before.
I didn't suffer.
Let me go with Safi first. Safi, what's your take on this?
No, I mean it worries me as well. I mean, if I think about what happens now, it reminds me of the Van Basten era, the Jol era, where it was purely a business club instead of a football club. And thank God for Karud, who intervened and came with the revolution. And it looks like it's coming back bit by bit, that business club, because they're bullying away all the former Ajax players and keep getting in, especially in the board, people who come from other businesses, from other corporates, lawyers, and so on, but no footballer. I mean, we got Danny Blind, but he's terrible. He's not an example. But I just miss that football. Miss that football knowledge within the board, but also within the management of the youth academy. Everywhere, it's becoming a business club, selling, buying. I know we are a listed company, but at first we are a football club, and that needs to be managed by footballers. I mean, former footballers. So it's worrisome. And
can I ask you guys a question? Sorry, can I ask you a question because you're training me a little bit? Did you get? I mean, I know you cannot do anything about it because this was scheduled like a month ago. But did you guys get annoyed between the Napoli games about this Parel for Amsterdam, with the players going to the to the premiere of their own Amazon Prime thing and these kind of things, and then Blind came with his own, and we're going through this type of situation. Didn't it annoy you a little bit? I know you cannot blame the players for it. You cannot blame because everything is set in stones, in terms of which dates,
planning
but
and stuff. Yeah,
it was very bad, honestly, at that point
bad
of
timing.
time.
Bad timing. It reminds me of Sergio Ramos at the Ajax game, where he did the documentary where Ajax lost the first game in 18-19 Champions League when he on purpose took that yellow card so he would get suspended. So he was filmed that moment, and eventually they got wrecked a week later or 2 weeks later, and it was all in that documentary. And it's basically the same. In my view, players should focus on football and not too much on those side business parts, the commercial thing. I mean, it's part of the business.
But Sabi, I think if you look at this, at the blind one. I think it was basically what he went through during his heart attack. So those images and talking about that, I think that was planned years ago. It's something that came out now, but it doesn't mean he was busy with it.
Yeah, but it's still part of the business. I mean, I don't
Do you
think
release these kind of things? Do you release these kind of things in the middle of the season, or do you do this a little bit in the off season, like in the summer, or maybe in the winter break, or these
exactly that's exactly what I want to say. It's all about timing.
Would you have been bothered if we were winning all our games and we were
That's what
playing
I was
good
just
football?
about to ask. Yeah, because it feels like it's only bad timing because we're losing. Because we're in a bad
question. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Ten Hag would condone it?
Ooh.
Does he have anything to say about it? Isn't it a club decision?
I don't know if this is a club decision.
Yeah, I
hard question, Juan.
Okay, so
I wanted to come back to the question of the
boardroom
before the Cruyff revolution stuff. I think, and my biggest blame goes towards Overmars, because basically he put us in this position. We had a great team with Van der Sar, Mark Overmars, and Ten Hag, and even if we still had Overmars and Van der Sar now and Ten Hag left to United, we would still have a great team there. But he ruined that for us, and he put Ajax in a position that we don't have a good technical director now, or technical manager, and they don't even know to find the next technical manager because it all happened so sudden, and they were forced to go for Gerry Hamstra and Huntelaar as an intern, let's say.
No, how is that Overmars? How is Overmars responsible for who's the one next to him, besides him?
He's not responsible for that.
You can blame him.
He's responsible for is his fall from grace. That's what he's responsible for. You can blame him for everything that happens afterwards because it was his fault that he had to leave in the first place.
Exactly. That's my point. He put us in a position that we had to change the technical manager position without even having a technical manager in our sights.
So you're saying a big elite club like Ajax, yes, is only as good as one person being a technical director. That's what you're saying.
Well, I'm just saying that when Overmars left, you saw how hard it was to find the next big technical manager for Ajax.
So hard. Yeah,
it has a domino effect, though. It has a domino effect on everything. It's not just about one man. It's about one man and what he does and how he does it and the different things that we didn't see behind the scenes about, like exactly what his job was and how to replicate them in one or two or three people.
Yeah, but isn't it the job of management to stop that domino?
Exactly.
Stop that domino.
It is, yeah. We can blame them for that.
So
but we can blame him for the start of,
It's not about Overmars. It's about the decision that has been made after Overmars that put us in this situation. So maybe Overmars was the start, but eventually he is not the one who really caused it, because there was sufficient time to intervene to come with a technical director.
I don't agree, because if you hear Schreuder talking in the press conference and saying we needed the agents' help because their knowledge is not there within the club.
Yeah, but that's months further.
Means,
I mean, that's months further.
It's further, but it's based on a decision they had to make because Overmars left, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's between February and summer. I mean, we had February, March, April, June, May, June.
But you lost a lot of expertise there. That's my point, Sahbi.
Yeah, so you had
another guy there. All the decisions that were there and the knowledge that was there, it's gone in one shot.
So, and that's why the management had to intervene and bring in expertise. Why wait so many months? Because, of course, then it becomes a domino effect where Schreuder screams that he doesn't have any experience. Agents have to do all those things. It's because there is no new technical director. And they had several months to look for a decent technical director. Give them 1 month, give them 2 months, but eventually it took them too long. And at the end, Huntelaar and Hamstra were not.
But you're talking that it's easy to find a technical director that immediately fits well with Ajax. And I'm telling you that they made a decision, and look at what that decision got us. I mean, the quality of players that we got in are not the quality of players that maybe a Mark Overmars would get in, based on his knowledge and expertise.
No, but they took the easy decision. The management took the easy decision by getting in Hamstra, who doesn't have any experience. He was working for Ajax, but doesn't have any experience. Getting in Huntelaar, who still doesn't know which function suits him, because he's still searching for the function which suits him the best within Ajax. So eventually, it's like a gamble. But we're a listed company. We're one of the biggest clubs. As Juan said, we're an elite club. You have to intervene. Get in a sports director. Every top club should have a technical director at once. You can't say we will wait to see how these two will do, or we will wait on a long term to take a decision on the technical director. That's bad management. You have to intervene,
Can I ask a question?
especially at this moment.
Yeah, you can.
Can I ask a question? How did we how did we appoint Edwin van der Sar CEO? Did he have CEO experience before we put him in, or was it learning on the job?
As a marketing director.
Learning on the job.
Exactly. So he's learning on the job, right? But not everybody can be Edwin van der Sar. That's the mistake the club made. They thought, okay, we'll get in Huntelaar, and he has Hamstra for help. Together they can be the Mark Overmars, and we'll have a similar case that happened with Edwin van der Sar. It doesn't always happen like that. We got lucky with Van der Sar because he's brilliant in his job, but
he started.
That's where the management messed up.
Yeah, but Van der Sar started with somebody strong besides him. He started as a marketing director, so having like a small function.
It took him years.
And then build up, becoming a general director. But these two, Hamstra, with no experience, Huntelaar just came in with Ajax as some sort of an intern, had to take on the job which Overmars had to do for several years. And we all know Overmars did an excellent job. I mean, many think he did an excellent job. But now you get two inexperienced people to do a heavy job, especially with so many players leaving us. I think
it's a bit more complicated than that, because not only are they inexperienced, but they're also valued as inexperienced within the club. So it means that, yes, they do the work, although Huntelaar, the role of Huntelaar has to be also very precise here. Huntelaar is the one that talks to the players and the agents and stuff. He's not the one making the really heavy decisions and these kind of things. As far as Hamstra goes, Hamstra was signed actually to relieve Overmars from his duties with the youth. That was his priority. And now that he left, he was a little bit promoted as, okay, you take over. And now he has to go over the big players and everything that happens to the first team. But none of those two are taking, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but they're not taking seriously within the Ajax board. How many times did we read that with Manchester United that Van der Sar had to step in? Van der Sar he's now doing much more technical stuff that he did before, because we don't have somebody like Overmars or somebody that's really capable, has experience as a technical director. And this is something that's worrisome.
That's
exactly what I'm saying.
But Van der Sar is also the one that agreed on the Anthony transfer and pushed it through. So it's also up to him to replace him. And if you look at the players that they came with, it really lacks vision within our board in what kind of players they went for. And what kind of players Ajax needed.
Wait. The vision when it comes to the type of players that we have to get, it doesn't have to come from the board. It has to come from the director of football and the technical part. Exactly. The board.
Yeah, but if you understand that the quality is not there, shouldn't you help them, especially Van der Sar? I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, I was just saying, it's like I was saying, it's the dominoes. One thing affects another thing, and affects another thing, and affects another thing.
But there is a difference between the board being the board and the technical stuff being handled by adequate technical people. The director of football, the coach, etc., the scouting department, all these people that are really about what's happening in the first team and how good the quality there should be.
It's all loose ends now. It's all loose ends. Everybody, it's like islands. Nobody is discussing. It's internally, Van der Sar mentioned that it's okay internally within the club, etc. I don't believe that. I think it's a war within the club, and it's a house of cards
And the
at
thing
this
is,
moment.
the thing that makes it even more complicated now is if you're going to appoint a director of football, the director of football also has to be able to work together with Schreuder.
Or
Because
fire Schreuder.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but the director of football and the coach are always the ones that work together closely, and
Yeah.
they should be aligned with each other in terms of the vision that they have. So
Yeah.
this is a situation. Usually, the director of football appoints the coach, like Overmars did when he appointed Bos, when he appointed Keizer, when he appointed Ten Hag. You know,
Yeah, absolutely
but
agree.
now you already have a coach, so it will be the other way around. But it's
What
not
does that
really-
mean? Do you think Schreuder will have a say on the director of football, like the other way around?
I think so. If they would want to sign a director of football, they should. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's going to be
if
difficult.
They
I
might
would
consult
tell
him
him
about it, but they, you know,
get,
he
get
doesn't have the final say, right? You wouldn't give him that much power.
No,
I
but
agree
you
with
would
you.
always consult because, as I said, they're gonna work together. You cannot hire somebody if that person doesn't want to work with somebody else or they don't have
exactly. But Juan, listen. If you're looking for new players, right? You don't give them one option and then say yes or no. You give them a couple of options and then you agree, okay, which one would fit best, and you would listen to what he has to say and what he prefers, right? But in the end, it's your decision. You're not going to give him the same power that Ten Hag had with Overmars, that they have all veto. They all have to be agreed on what player to get. I think the technical director, if he is from a certain level and he has certain status within Ajax, then he can take those decisions without the coach really needing to be involved in that.
no, 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 absolutely not.
Okay.
That's fair.
If the quality is there,
no,
look, if
you
they can
cannot-
do something with an
How can you-
Ocampos level, they can do with other players.
How can you make
I'm
a
just saying.
decision? How can you make a decision without the consent of the coach? He's the one that's going to work with the player. So you're
Because
saying
we saw what kind of players the coach brought in.
Yeah,
Basically,
but that's
every
because-
player that came in was based on Schreuder and his agent. Look at the quality that came
Okay,
in. You can never give
Sure,
that kind of
we
power
shouldn't
to a
give-
coach.
you do
You're right. We
understand.
shouldn't give 100%.
One moment.
We shouldn't give
one
100%. Sorry,
No,
yeah,
one
go
moment.
on.
You do understand that the way it worked with Overmars and Ten Hag is that both had to have agreed on a player, right? So if one of them agreed and the other one didn't agree, it wouldn't go through. So just example, Overmars says yes, Ten Hag says no, no player. Okay, I think that's
That's
a
true.
healthy way of working.
But if
You
you look,
cannot,
if you
you
look-
cannot just
Yeah.
ignore a coach and say, "Hey, here's the player, work with
yeah,
him."
but that's the opposite
Yeah.
of what Schreuder said at the start of the season in an interview, in his first interview, where he said, "I just wait with which players Ajax gets in, and I will work with them. I won't really ask for player. I will work with the players that come in because I have trust in the club." That's what he basically said at the
Yeah, I
start.
remember that.
But now during the press conference, he said, "Well, my agents are doing this, my agent is doing that by bringing in the players." So I don't know, were these players that we bought, were these all with the consent of Schreuder, or were these bought by Ajax, by I don't know whom, by scouting, and is it without the consent of Schreuder? I really don't know.
I cannot imagine Schreuder not being informed and even agreeing on certain stuff. I mean, at least in terms of being advised about. Maybe he had second doubts about certain players, but there's no way that he doesn't know which players Ajax was
And that's
working on.
And
that's the thing what's worrying me the most, because many of those players were bought without any scouting report that came out through Telegraph recently. So who is right? Who is wrong? Who's yeah? It's so unclear. That's why I'm saying it's a house of cards internally, because it's so unclear at this moment.
And look, if we look at Ten Hag, for instance, Overmars was already there. The team was already there when he started. The only player that came in when he started was Tagliafico. Based on his performance, how he did, I think the whole veto thing naturally evolved for the next season. That he had good results. they were convinced about his coach capability, and they gave him the next year the same amount of votes of Overmars. But it's not something you're going to give away immediately to a coach just started. No, that coach still has to prove himself.
I do
It's
agree.
about
I
the
don't think
balance. I was trying to say, like, you. Sorry,
No.
if I can.
No, go ahead.
It's about the
Yeah,
balance.
go
You have
Go
to
ahead.
consult the coach, but you also have to, do what's best for the team. So you ask the coach. It's a conversation. It's not like we have to do something or the coach has to do something. We choose or the coach chooses. It's me or you. It's both. It's a collaboration. They need to decide together. They need to sit down and, with the analytics department, with the scouting department, with the board, with the technical director, with the CEO, with the coach. Everybody has to sit down because this is the most important thing. It's about the recruitment. So if you recruit, if you're having a meeting and everybody's on the same page about a player, that's much better than calling up an agent and saying, okay, we want to buy your client, and then telling the coach later, we bought this player. Like that's not the correct way to go about it.
I remember. I mean, there's so many instances about. I saw it with Arnezen about a documentary. He used to be director of football of Feyenoord. You would look at the how do you call it, the whiteboard, and you would see exactly they have the names of the players, the backup player, and at all times the director of football is looking like, okay, if this player goes away, who's next? They're looking constantly at the first team player, like, okay, same as the best example is if you guys have ever watched Moneyball, of course, is the same principle. They're always looking at how we recruit, how we enforce the team, how we, of course, it's baseball, it's a little bit different, but there's always this idea. Every director of football should know exactly.
Plan B.
This is our
There's a
team.
plan B.
This is our backup. This is what we need.
Contingency. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Final thoughts about this Ajax team, Schreuder, players, anything. Just 2 sentences. Let me go with River first.
Okay. Schreuder out, first of all. Second of all, the players they need to decide what they are as a team. On the pitch we need to see the connections, man. We need to see a better build-up play, and of course this comes back to the coach. But the players they need to put a bit more effort in. I'd like to see some more of the youth players, and I think Robbie should start more.
Papimento.
I mean, a lot is said already. I will just say that the pressure is off. We're out of the Champions League, now Europa League. Up to Schreuder to build us up and move forward. If that doesn't happen before the World Cup, just fire him and get somebody new.
What do you mean before the World Cup? We don't have many games left. We only have 4, I think.
Well, we have
Wait,
an
wait.
important game.
Rangers, PSV, Vitesse, Emmen, right? 4, right? Am I correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Okay.
talking about being first in the league. I'm talking about showing on the pitch that we're back to where Ajax should be based on our philosophy and the way we want to play.
But Schreuder is he said a couple of times he's seeing progress. Are you seeing progress? No,
Yeah,
I'm
but
serious.
Schreuder sees every game progress. No, I'm not seeing progress.
The Napoli game was progress. Both matches were progress.
All right.
We didn't
So-
get that embarrassed the second time round, I guess.
Man,
What's your final take on this? On this
my
whole
thing
thing?
is, Schreuder's out in capitals. That's one. Secondly, even though let's just be very direct. He needs to look at this we talk session, and then make some changes. He knows what to do based on the issues that we just mentioned. That's it.